Welcome back everyone, it's me Matt and thank you for joining me. Today we are diving into a subject that is close to my heart as a proud artillery gunner in the Royal Canadian Artillery. We're talking about the C3 105mm Howitzer, a cornerstone of Canada's artillery capabilities and a weapon system that's iconic as it is enduring. Now, as a reservist, the C3 is my primary platform for my battery and my regiment, which we operate, and I'm thrilled to showcase its history, its features, and its enduring relevance in both training and operational roles today. To give you some perspective, the Royal Canadian Artillery is equipped with three primary gun platforms. The regular force employs the formidable M777 155mm Howitzer as their primary form of artillery piece, and is used by units such as the 1st and 2nd Royal Canadian Horse Artillery and the Quebecois 5 Regimental Artillery or 5 RALC. For reserve units like mine, however, the C3 105mm Howitzer and the LG 105mm Howitzer take centre stage. While the M777 is designed for precision fire and high-intensity operations, the C3 remains an invaluable tool for training, avalanche control, and the foundational art of gunnery. You've likely heard a lot of grumbles about the C3 being outdated, and yes, it is no spring chicken. This howitzer served the Canadian Forces for decades, and while its design may lack the sleekness of modern systems, it's a testament to its enduring functionality. What it lacks in cutting-edge features, it compensates with unparalleled reliability, simplicity, and ease of use. The C3 thrives in roles where rugged dependability outweighs the need for advanced technology. The C3 has roots that trace back to the British L5 Pack Howitzer, adapted specifically for Canada's unique and challenging terrain. Whether it's used in dense forests, snowy landscapes, or open plains, this artillery piece has proven its mettle time and time again. As you can see with this beautiful 105mm ammunition in front of us right now in HE configuration, this ammunition is sought after considerably, and it's really interesting seeing guns being utilised like the C3 in Ukraine right now, to the point where the recoil mechanisms are almost completely shot, yet the gun continues to serve and continues to operate. This is a testament to its dependability and ruggedness, and just how well this platform through history has done for itself. Of course though, it's not just about a gun itself. The C3 plays a vital role with the gunners that are using it to train and provide operational readiness. It's an ideal platform for teaching the fundamentals of gunnery and fire discipline, from calculating trajectories to perfecting the art of rapid fire. For reservists like myself, it's an introduction to the traditions and responsibilities of artillery service. Beyond training, the C3 takes on roles that are as unique as they are essential. One standout example is avalanche control, conducted under programs like Operation Palachi. I actually have gunners from my unit serving there right now, and hats off and thanks to them again for doing so. By firing into snowpack slopes to preemptively trigger avalanches, the C3 helps protect Canadian communities from natural disasters and keeps the highways flowing from west to east or east to west. And that highway is pulling in millions of dollars to the Canadian economy, and if it's blocked by an avalanche, it can actually shut down the country. It's a role that showcases the gun's versatility with the gunners and their adaptability to be utilised on any other gun platform. Fire discipline is crossed to every other gun. It's really not that difficult. Despite its age, the C3 remains central to artillery operations in Canada. It really does make such an amazing artillery training tool. But of course, it is time for them to start looking at opportunities to have this gun replaced, because it is not without its flaws. This particular video is going to explore the many facets of the C3's legacy, its origins, features, and the men and women who operate it. Whether you're considering joining the artillery, are a seasoned gunner, or simply a military enthusiast, this journey through the world of the C3 Howitzer promises to be as dynamic and impactful as the gun itself. So let's load up, get some HE in there, fire for effect, and delve into what makes the C3 a timeless icon for our Canadian artillery. So let's start off with the origins of this legacy. The 105mm M2A1, later designated the M101A1 howitzer, was the standard light field artillery piece designated from the United States during World War II. It saw extensive action in both European and Pacific theatres. Entering production in 1941, it quickly gained a reputation for accuracy and powerful punches. In 1962, the US military redesignated the M2A1 as the M101A1. The howitzer continued to see service during the Korean and Vietnam Wars, although the M102 howitzer was introduced during this period. It never fully replaced the M101A1. Today, the gun is retired by the US military, though it continues to see service with many other countries and, of course, upgraded through Canadian design. Canada officially adopted the C1 105mm howitzer, an adaptation of the US M2A1, on September 11, 1956, replacing the 25-pounder gun. The Canadian Army continued to use the C1 howitzer unaltered from its original M2A1 configuration until 1997, when modifications were made to extend its surface life. The upgraded version, designated the C3 105mm howitzer, featured a longer barrel, muzzle brake, reinforced trails, and the removal of shield flaps. The C3 howitzer is a mobile, general-purpose, light-towed field artillery weapon capable of firing extended-range munitions up to 18 kilometers away. It's manually operated, single-loaded, air-cooled, and uses a semi-fixed ammunition, or two-part ammunition, projectile and the casing or cartridge. The C3 can be employed for direct or indirect fire, as you're seeing in some of this footage. In this particular footage, you're seeing me doing a fire mission, slowly, because I'm being assessed into a new qualification as a Gundet 2IC. Normally a fire for effect would be a lot faster, but we're taking things nice and slow as we train. But this is an indirect fire role where I'm actually firing artillery in its traditional sense from long distance. In this particular firing, I think we're firing about 4 kilometers away. In the direct fire role in some of the other footage you saw, we're firing in an open action state, which is basically engaging targets that we can see. This is the difference between indirect and direct fire, and the C3 is very good at both of these particular fire missions. It can be elevated to high angles to reach targets hidden from flat trajectory guns, and structurally it's very similar to the C1, but the C3 is distinguished by that longer 33 caliber barrel and that muzzle brake, allowing it to fire all standard NATO 105mm howitzer ammunition. But the C3 howitzer's story wouldn't be complete without a nod to its roots in the Netherlands. Manufactured by RDM Manufacturing in Rotterdam, the C3 was delivered to Canada's Army Reserve in 1998 as part of a larger effort to extend the life of the C1 platform. The upgrades transformed the aging design into a better artillery piece capable of meeting the demands of the Canadian Armed Forces at the time. Of course, the gun comes with a multitude of different accessories and ancillary equipment required to need it to shoot. This is actually the cleaning staves and the bell required to pull through and clean it. This is the box that holds the sight for the number 3 sight. And of course the sight itself, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. On the breech that you can see over here is the gunner's quadrant, allowing you to actually verify that that elevation is accurate with another bubble. The gun is robust and it's heavy duty, but sometimes it does have some issues with jamming rounds if it gets really sticky, so use the rammer jammer tool to push or extract the cartridge into the breech. This is the hand spike, allowing the gunners to manipulate the trails of the gun, either open and close, because on the other side you have the lunette, which you can grab hold of, but on this side there isn't much to. So the hand spike allows you to bonk gunners over the head with it. I'm just kidding. Allows you to manipulate that trail, and there's the lunette that is spun either up or down to attach to the gun tractor. In the front here is another piece of ancillary equipment. This is our center of arc marker, which I'm not going to get into incredible detail here because it will go on forever. But the sight itself also is something I could talk about for days. It is designed to allow you to aim and fire the gun. And this is the mount that holds it on there, which is the M2A1. So the panoramic telescope is mounted in the telescope socket of the telescope mount. It is used for setting bearings for indirect fire and for deflections and ranges for direct fire. The telescope consists of principally a fixed focus 4-power optical system with a rotating head, coarse and fine bearing scales, and elements for rotating the head and elevating and depressing the sight line. The 4-power optical system provides a field of view of 10 degrees and contains a reticle pattern with a grid of horizontal range lines which indicate ranges from 0 to 2,200 yards in increments of 200 yards. Vertical lines on the reticle pattern indicate the deflections from 0 to 40 mils right or left of the center of 0. They are graduated every 5 mils and labeled every 10 mils. This type of reticle pattern permits the telescope and mount to be used for direct fire using the one-man lay system. The reticle is graduated for ranges corresponding to charge 7 using shell HEM1. The rotating head may be rotated to any desired bearing by turning the bearing micrometer knob or by releasing the quick release lever, and slewing the rotating head to any desired position by hand. There is an open sight on the side to allow you to basically iron sight if you need to. The main scale is graduated anti-clockwise into 64 divisions of 100 mils each and numbered progressively every 200 mils from 0 to 6200, and the 0 also representing 6400. It is fixed and turns only where the rotating head is controlled by this bearing micrometer knob or the quick release lever. The main scale micrometer is positioned on the bearing micrometer shaft and is locked to the shaft by means of a bearing ring or micrometer knob which moves against a fixed index. The slipping scale consists of a circular ring located above the main scale and is graduated into 64 divisions of 100 mils each and is numbered progressively clockwise every 200 mils from 0 to 6200, and the 0 also representing 6400. This is utilised when firing missions or bearings. The little gate and the little window open there is used for angles. Using this sight is a little bit more complicated. If I had to go to extreme detail, you'd probably fall asleep, but that's the basic in-depth look of the Panoramic Telescope Canadian No. 1 Mark II, or otherwise known as the No. 3 sight. On the opposite side of the gun, in the No. 2 position, otherwise known as the Triggerman, is basically operating the range quadrant, or the M4A1. As you can see, rotating the dials adjusts the elevation to the gun. The range quadrant provides means of laying the howitzer for indirect fire and provides a mounting surface for the telescope mount of the M23. The M23 is, in all honesty, just a telescope mount for anti-tank engagements. It is mounted to the upright extension arm of the range quadrant and holds the remainder of the telescope mount. The elbow telescope, or the M16A1, is used for direct laying in elevation as part of a two-man lay system and is graduated in yards for the high-explosive anti-tank M67. And one final piece of accompanying equipment that you really need to aim the gun is the collimeter M1A1. Although technically you don't need it, it's very useful to have as an aiming point. The collimeter is an optical instrument used for indirect laying of artillery equipment by establishing an optical reference from which bearings can be measured. It consists of a tripod with telescoping hinge legs, a mount base, and a yoke subassembly which houses the bearing and elevation knobs. The bearing clamping knob is below the yoke and the elevation clamping knob is at the top of the yoke. In theory, the gunner is lining the collimeter up with the No. 3 sight to give reference. The assembly consists of the optical system, a mechanical housing, and it even has a light source that you can put in the back of it. It's basically line up and make sure that the reticle pattern is given a bearing reference for the scale repeated at vertical intervals, thus forming a grid in the field of view. The reticle pattern is cross-leveled using a cross-level bubble, and the collimeter is locked in the level position by means of clamping knobs. Open sights in the collimeter permit alignment between the collimeter and the panoramic telescope. And if there's one way you really want to piss off a sergeant or a gun deck commander on the gun line is to knock this thing or hit it or disrupt it in any way, they're not going to be happy. Okay, so let's have some fun looking at the technical specifications and a more in-depth, detailed look at this gun. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I showing you a PowerPoint with a bunch of weird pictures on it? Well, this is actually the PowerPoint I produced for my Gun Deck Commanders course to remember the details of the gun. So, we're going to go through it together, and you may be kind of wondering why these weird pictures are there. It's because that's how my brain works to remember things for the assessments. So, the weight of the gun is 2,457 kilograms, apparently a pin code that I would at some point remember. Its length is 7.53 meters, some reference to 7.62 in Full Metal Jacket. I'm not sure why I went that route. Its width is 4.56 meters, and its length is 33 cal for the 105mm gun, and when its gun is fully extended to high elevation, its height is 3.75 meters. In terms of its traverse left and right, it can go 409 mils. I guess I referenced the movie 1408, remember that? And every turn of the handle, full complete turn of the handle to traverse the gun, is 19 mils per turn. And that picture of me is when I was 19 years old, hence remembering. This is actually a picture of the American gun that's been referenced previously. The elevation is 1,245 mils maximum, with a 89 mils depression maximum as well. Every turn of the elevation or depression handle is 10 mils per turn. In terms of the firing mechanisms and the recoil systems that are used for this gun, it is a continuous pull percussion using spring withdrawal, basically similar to a rifle in all honesty. And what are the functions of the howitzer for its recoil mechanism? Well, it has to return, it recoils the parts to the in-battery position, it controls the speed of the counter recoil and provides proper buffering action to prevent slamming, it holds the recoiling part in battery and positions at all angles of elevation, and absorbs the recoil energy with a convenient distance and bring the gun to rest. Ironically though, in Ukraine, not the C3 but similar American configurations that have been given to the Ukrainian armed forces, they do not have recoil systems anymore. They have completely negated the maintenance of those guns, and I actually have, if you look at my YouTube shorts, a video of one of those guns just firing to the worst level of recoil you could ever imagine. These are all the ancillary pieces of equipment that go onto the gun that are very important for it to be utilized effectively. On the left we have the panoramic telescope mount M21A1, with apparently some A1 source there. That is actually what's going to house and mount the Panoramic Telescope Canadian #1 Mark II sight, which is basically the #3 sight used to aim the gun in an indirect fire setting. On the right hand side is the range quadrant, or M4A1, which for some reason I put a M4A1 in there, which is designed to allow the #2 to elevate and depress the gun to whatever mils have been given in elevation from the gun deck commander. On the bottom left is an elbow telescope mount, which is actually designed for an elbow telescope, which is for taking out tanks, or direct firing in anti-tank engagements, which is something we really don't do much in the grand scheme of things anymore. However, our battery did get a bunch of ESH rounds a little while ago and was putting some direct fire down, so it's kind of cool. But of course, I've also put an M16A1 in there just to reference my brain and some more A1 source. The gunner's quadrant M1A1 is basically used for when we need to verify the gun is calibrated correctly to a certain elevation, and when we're doing danger close missions to really ensure that we're getting the right level of accuracy for that gun. And we also have bore sighting equipment that is utilized to make sure the gun is bore-sighted. It has 36 lands and grooves per barrel, and its fire rate is actually quite impressive. A normal maximum charge is 6 rounds per minute for a good crew. A burst of maximum charge is 3 rounds in 15 seconds, and sustained for 60 minutes at all angles is 3 rounds a minute. In terms of towing, it can be towed by a multitude of different vehicles, including a milk cart if you really wanted to, which is basically just a Silverado pickup truck, but we use the MSVS gun tow truck, which is an artillery configuration cab, which allows the gun crew to go into the back. I do know the people who use the MTLB in the old days, which you're seeing there, is a lot more exposed to the environment, but still a lot of good reviews from that gun tractor, which used to tow it. It can go at roughly 70 kilometers an hour on the highway. Secondary roads is around about 50 kilometers an hour, and off-road about 15 kilometers an hour. Nowadays, we don't really tow them on the highways because they are very delicate, being towed long distances. We don't want to damage them, so we tend to flatbed them around when we need them to go. This is the firing mechanism. It is a trip action, which is basically one continuous pull of the firing lever or lanyard compresses the mainspring until at a certain point a travel or sear is tripped. Basically, it's kind of like a rifle. I mean, it's literally firing a sear and firing a pin into the back of the cartridge. Very simplistic design, and the M13 firing lock is amazing. It's literally a solid lump of metal that has really no problems with it. The firing pins can get a little worn down sometimes for misfires, but very, very rarely, and it's an extremely reliable firing mechanism. However, the C3 Howitzer's barrels have become an unexpected Achilles heel in recent years. Originally designed to last through 7,500 shots, through a recent NATO analysis, the data that have been found on many barrels have begun showing cracks at less than 3,000 rounds. This premature wear has actually created logistical headaches for artillery crews, particularly in irregular force units where guns see heavy use for things like Appalachia. Interestingly, barrels used in avalanche control operations seem to be far better. Whether it's due to lighter workloads, superior maintenance, or sheer luck, these guns have become an anomaly worth studying. For operational units, spreading the workload across multiple guns and refining maintenance practices are key strategies to extend the barrel life of these guns. These challenges highlight the wear and tear that comes with prolonged service, reminding us that even the most reliable tools need attention to stay battle ready. And addressing these issues will be critical to ensuring the C3's continued relevance in Canada's future artillery lineup. It's safe to say Canada does need a replacement of the C3, and at the moment it's not looking like it's going to be coming for the near future, but that's okay. I'm quite proud to be a field artillery gunner. In fact, I'm very proud to be a C3 gunner, and I thoroughly like working on the guns, but I'm now in the forward observation post more than I am on the gun, so I don't remember half the stuff I'm doing on the gun. Just kidding. But the reality is it would be really nice to start working with some more modernized platforms, but we just have to wait and see what the future holds. I'd love to hear your opinion on this gun. If you've served on the C3, let me know in the comment section below. Leave me a little like as well if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video, folks. All the best. Bye-bye.